I'll be looking at the different string function called the string shuffle function, and we are going to look at how it works with immediate effect. So the string shuffle function works like the randomize function that I've treated in previous videos. So we are going to see how the string shuffle function works, and it's written like this. Now the string shuffle function carries only one argument in the argument area, and that is the argument of the value of the string, or the string that you want to shuffle. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to echo string right here. So we'll echo string. Okay, now we're going to echo string, but before we do that, let's quickly do a save as on this, and we'll call this a string word count. Let's call that string word, no, string shuffle, sorry. We'll say string shuffle. Okay, and we'll do a save there, and we're going to quickly look at how this works in our browser. Let's change this to string shuffle. Okay, let's do Ctrl S there. Let's go to our browser and say string shuffle.php. Now let's enter and see. Say this is my house now and my home. Okay, let's quickly look at something here. Now we're echoing STRs. Okay, we're echoing STR, not string. So let's do a refresh and see, and you see it randomly reshuffle the characters or the words in my variable. Okay, so you can decide to use this while you're generating a randomly uploaded file on the internet or on your server in one way or the other, or you can still also decide to shuffle half of the string. Now let me quickly erase this and write alphabets. Let's say I want A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Let's just stop there. Let me not bore you with the rest of the alphabets. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and 0 for instance. Now let's save that. Let's say that's the value of our string, and now we want to shuffle that. Now we'll do a Ctrl S there and go to a browser and refresh. You see that it's randomly generating what or shuffling the string. Okay, now what if you want to shuffle half of this, or you want to shuffle a particular amount of your string? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable. Let's quickly do that. Let's create a variable called half. Okay, I think half will be a good word for that. Now let's say half is equal to substring. Now we'll use the substring function, which is there. Use a substring and we'll give it the arguments that it needs. Now the substring function carries arguments. Okay, now the substring function have 3 arguments. Now the first argument is we're going to feed it with the STR function. Okay, we're going to feed it with the shuffled function of the string. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to feed it with STR, and now the second argument that it carries is the start value, which in our case we want that to be 0, and the end value that you want, as in the area or the point where you want to cut the string to form what is substring. Okay, now in our case, let's say 5. We just want from the 1st to the 5th, that is from 0 to 5. Okay, now let's do our semicolon there, and let's echo half in this case. Now we'll echo half like this, and Ctrl S. Okay, that's half that I wrote. Let's say half, and let's go to our browser and refresh. Okay, now you see that it only brought out 5 strings at a time. Okay, now you can equally say you want to echo or create a substring from the starting point to half of what the string. Okay, so in this case we'll use another function called the string length, written like this, string length, and now we're feeding it with what? The string. Okay, we're feeding it with a string because we need half of the string. I don't know if you get that, but what we need here is half. This is STR divided by 2. We need half of it. Okay, and let's save that and see what our browser gives us. Okay, you see, so it takes the string, divide it by 2, get the starting point, and then gives you half of the string. Okay, now take a very good look at that. In the next video we'll be talking about the string reverse function. I'll see you there. Welcome back. Now we're going to be looking at some more functions on strings. We're going to look at some other functions that works on strings, and I think these ones are kind of important, so I decided to treat them here. We're going to look at a couple of them, and we're going to be starting with a basic function called the string word count. Okay, now we're going to do a file save as here, and we'll change this to let's just call it str.php. I'll save that, and quickly I'm going to remove this, and I'll call it string word count, and I'm going to remove all of this right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm first of all going to assign a variable. Let's say the name of our variable is string, and we are assigning it to, let's say this is my house. Okay, let's just leave it there. Now let's put a full stop and let's call it there, and we're going to assign another variable. Now the variable we're going to be assigning now is to, let's call this str. Now we'll assign this variable to the function of the first variable string right here, and we're going to see how it works when we echo it out on the next line. So let's quickly do that. Now the function is written like str underscore word. You see, the editor I use gives me suggestions on some PHP functions, and as you can see, that is how it is written, string word count. Okay, and in a bracket we have the name of the string, which in our case is string. Now the string word count function have basically 3 functions, of which one is required. Okay, the first function is the required function. Okay, so we'll talk about the other 2 functions, but let's see what our browser will give to us when we echo out just the first function. So let's echo this. Now we're going to echo string str, and let's see what it gives us here. Let's say str.php, and we say 4. Okay, now it counts the words. Okay, so here as you can see, we have 4 words. It does not count the full stop. Okay, the full stop is not inclusive, so you have this is my house, which altogether is 4. Okay, so now the second argument in the function is okay, let's try. So I will say it carries either 0, 1, or 2. Okay, now 0 just counts the words the normal way we saw it. So let's refresh that and see, and you see it's still 4. Now what 1 does is 1 changes this to an array and assign a key to them. Okay, now for this, it say this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. I don't know if you get that, but if you don't, let's echo that and see what we get. Okay, so now you discover that if we save that and check our browser, let's do a refresh, and you see what we have there. We have an array. Okay, now you see this error here because we are actually not doing it right. We're supposed to use the print r function, so I will get the array perfectly. So let's quickly do that and see what we'll get. So let's say print r, and let's do this and this. Okay, let me save that and refresh, and now you discover that the array is out the normal way it should be. Okay, you see this assigned with the key 0, is assigned with 1, 2, mine is assigned with 2, and house is assigned with 3. Okay, that is an array. We treated that in some videos back, so if you don't understand how an array works, I advise you go back and watch the video that talks about arrays. Okay, now let's quickly look at what 2 does. And now what the number 2 does here is it assigns the key to each word, but it does not assign it the way that the number 1 does. Now the way it assigns its own is it counts the first word. In this case, this is 0 because it starts from 0. Now since this is the first word here, now it assigns this with 0, And now if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, this is the fifth word, and it say this here, it assigns this to the key 4 because it starts from 0. Don't forget that. Okay, now let's quickly check that and see what I'm talking about. And you see now this 0, 5, which is 8, that means it counts spaces. Okay, in this case we say T here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That means the I on is 5 because it counts spaces as well. Okay, so look at that very well. In our next video, we'll be looking at the next string and what it does and how we can make some changes and add more tweaks to the string word count function. See you in the next video. Okay, let's quickly look at what the third function does for us. And now I've added 3 words here, but I'm going to remove them for now. When we get there, we'll know what they're talking about. Now the third function here, what it does is it adds a word. Okay, like we saw in the last video that the full stop was not included in count. Now you can say you want the full stop to be included in the count, okay, by doing this like this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to save that and refresh our browser. Let's see what's going to happen from here. Now when we refresh that, you discover that it says this is my house. It adds the full stop to house. Initially there was no full stop after house. Okay, let's see that again so that you understand it better. Now when we add the full stop here but remove it from here, let's remove the third argument completely. Now let's save that, go back to our browser and refresh. Now you discover that the full stop is not there. So now what the third argument does is it tells PHP that I want the full stop word to be there like that. And when we refresh, we discover that the full stop comes in there. So that is what the third argument does. So it doesn't only work with full stops, it can work with symbols, okay, different symbols, because on a normal note it does not count symbols if you use the first 2 functions of the first function alone. Okay, it does not count symbols, but when you add up symbols, it counts the symbols as well. Now you discover that if you give a full stop here and refresh that, you see it counts the full stop as what a string. I don't know if you get that. It gives it a key of its own. It becomes a value in the array. Okay, so now let's look at how it can work with other symbols as well. Now initially I said this is my house and my home, for instance. Okay, like that. Now if we remove the third variable, or the third argument rather, and save that, now let's refresh and see what we'll get. Now you see this is my house. No and, it said my home. The and was removed and the period sign, which is the full stop, was also removed. Okay, so now what it does is, what we can do to include those 2 is, let's change this back to 1. We can say we want it this way. Now the first symbol there is the symbol and the second one is a full stop. Now you write them like that without giving spaces. Okay, the spaces are not required. So now when you refresh your browser, now you discover that the and was assigned to a key and this was also what assigned to a key. Okay, if you give the full stop that space that we did initially, it will also be assigned to a key like this. Then when we refresh it, you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so now this is how the string word count, this is how it works, this is what it does. Look at it, take your time to study it. In our next video we'll be talking about a different function. I'll see you there. The string we're going to be talking about is called the string reverse function. Now actually I don't use this string too often because I've not found a particular reason why I should, but let's just do it for the purpose of those of you out there who might want to use this or who might find this useful in a particular line of action. So let's quickly look at how the string reverse function works, and I'm going to erase this and go back to our former string. Say this is my house. Okay, and we're just going to do it this way, and I'm going to remove this. Now the string reverse function is written like this, and it have only one variable, okay, one argument, which is the string that you want to reverse. I don't know if you get that, but let's see how it works. Okay, now I'm quickly going to do a save as there, and let's see what happens. Let me change this to str because that is what will be echoing after we save our file. So let me do a save as there and change this to string reverse, strrev, just like the function name states. I'm going to do save as, and let's go to a browser and see how it works. Okay, now this will be strrev, and hit enter key, and you see it reverses what the string. See, this is my house. It turns it, or it kind of mirrors it, and gives you the other side of the whole thing. Okay, so take a very good look at it, because that is the only thing we'll be treating in this video. I'll say in the next video we'll be treating about, or talking about, how to compare two variables together using a very nice string function. We're going to talk about it. I'll see you there. Now we'll be looking at how to compare two strings together, or get the percentage of comparison using a particular string, or sorry, a particular function called the similar text function. Now let's quickly look at that. I'm going to erase all of this for now, and well, let me leave the string, or the variable rather, and I'll do a save as quickly, and we'll call this similar. Let's just call it similar.php. Now I want to compare the string. Let's call this string 1. Now we are comparing string 1 and another string. Let's say that string 2. Now we want to get the similarity, or the percentage in the similarities, and we'll say this is my house. Now just follow along. We're going to get this right at the end of this video. Okay, this is my house. Now mind you, I wrote the same thing on the two string. Okay, now the similar text, okay, carries 3 variables, and the similar text carries 3 arguments. Okay, and the first argument is the first string you want to compare, or the first variable you want to compare in our case is a string 1. Now the second one is the second variable you want to compare, or the second string you want to compare. In our case, this is string 2. Okay, and the third one is the result. Now we are going to say result. Mind you, we have not declared result. That is because we're going to echo that in our next line here. So our result, we're going to echo, sorry about that, we're going to echo result. Let's just echo result. Okay, results. Okay, now this is how it works. When it gives the comparison between this string here and this string here, now it gives the result, and that result will be echoed out in the next line. Okay, if you don't get that, let's check in our browser and see what we'll get. But first of all, let's save that, and go to a browser and change this to similar.php, and you see 100. Now the percentage is 100. That is because the two words were exactly the same. Okay, now if I want to change this and say this is my home, for instance, and Control S on that, when I go and refresh, you discover that the percentage decreases. Okay, now it compares the word between the two variables, and see match the ones that are similar, and gives a percentage on them with regards to the whole statement. Okay, now let's quickly change one other thing. Let's say this is our home instead of mine. You discover that something else happens. Instead of 90, it reduces itself to 75. Do you get that? Now the more the two strings get more different, the more the percentage reduces. I don't know if you get that, but take a very good look at that. It's very useful while programming in PHP. I'll see you in the next video. Now we're going to be looking at another important string function called the add slashes function. Let me quickly do a save as here. I will call this add slashes. Let's just say add to save our time. I'm going to erase part of this, and let's say this is my house. But before we do that, let's quickly add an img tag here. Now img src, that's HTML, and we'll say equal to, with double quotes, now we'll say image.jpg. Okay, jpg there, and let's save that. Now on our next line, we are going to echo string. Well, first of all, echo it so that you get to understand what I'm talking about. Now let's echo string. Now let's go to a browser and refresh that. Now our file name is add, .php. Now refresh that, you see it gives us an error. Let's go back and see where we made a mistake. String 1 is this, echo string 1, sorry, we're echoing string 1 rather. Let's go back and refresh and see. Now you see this is my house. Now the img tag that we use, the HTML tag that we use, is not displayed now, rather is trying to display an image. Since there's no image, it now give us a placeholder there. Now let's see how we can deal with this. Now if you go with HTMLs, there's a function that PHP have that let's call them the HTML entities. Now what it does is it gives security to HTML codes and allows it to come out as plain text instead of assuming the function of the tag or the element in the tag. Okay, so now what we're going to do now is we're going to use the HTML entities function written like this. Okay, and we're going to put a string 1 inside the bracket. Now let's first of all try this before we look at our add slashes function and see what we'll get. Now let's refresh and see. Now you discover that the placeholder is not there anymore, but rather the text, the way it is being written in our code. Okay, now that is what the HTML entities does. Okay, it gives or it adds security to our HTML code, especially in contact forms and other forms of that nature. Okay, so now we're going to add the add slashes function written like this, and we're going to assume that in a bracket of its own too with a string inside. Now this is what is going to happen. Now you watch that closely. Let me show you what is very important. Now when we go to a browser and refresh, now you see, let's look at that. Add slashes. Sorry, I spelled it wrongly. Now let's refresh that again. Now you see that it adds slashes before the double quotes here. Okay, now it is very important to use so that or your browser or your code will not give you something that is not being needed in the output. Okay, as you add the slashes, you can as well remove slashes using what we call strip slashes. Okay, now we can say echo HTML entities. Let's put a break tag here. Let's quickly put a break tag here. Let's echo br. Okay, let's do that quickly. Now since we've added slashes, we can just do this. Let's copy that and paste it here, and then let's strip slashes. Okay, let's strip slashes written like this, strip slashes. Now when we refresh that, we need to put a semicolon there. Okay, now let's strip slashes and see how it works. Now you see the first one here added the slash, while the second one removed the slash. So those are two functions we've treated in this video, and this is where we're going to stop for string functions. There are many more functions out there. You can go to the php.net website and search for yourself. You see as many string functions as you can. Try them out on your own, and in the next video we'll be talking about something else. I'll see you there. In this video we'll be looking at expression matching. Now expression matching is a function that checks to see if a string is in another string. Okay, so I'll quickly close this, and I'll do a save as here, and I'll call this expression.php, and I'll just remove all of this. And the function used to check for that is called preg match. Now it uses the function preg match like this, preg match there. Okay, so that is preg match. So now let's quickly write a variable. Let's say var1 is equal to, let's say this is a string, for instance. Okay, and let's do that. Now we want to test to see if the word is in our string. Okay, now we use the function preg match, but the preg match now will be inside our if else statement. So we say if, okay, preg match like this, and you open another bracket. Now the preg match has two arguments. Now the first argument is what you're searching for. Okay, that will be in two quotes inside two slashes. In our case, we're looking for is. Now that is the first argument, and the second argument is the variable that you're searching that particular word in. Okay, so in our case, we're looking at var1. Then we're going to say if the word is in preg match, echo match found. Okay, else echo match not found. Okay, now let's quickly check that and see what we'll get. So let's go to our browser and change this to expression of PHP, and you see match found. Okay, so that is how the preg match function works. Now you can also check to see if space is in a string. Now let's refresh that and see, you see match found. Now let's mark a voluntary mistake. Let's say we are looking for the word they. Now we know obviously that the word they is not in our string, but let's refresh our browser and see, you see match not found. So you can use that to check if a particular word or a string is in another string. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, look at that very well. We'll be looking at one more function, and string function, and I think this one is very important. That is why I decided to treat it. It's called the string position. You can check that up in a php.net website, but I decided to treat it because it's a very important PHP function for strings. Now I'm quickly going to do a save as, and I'm changing the title to string function. I'll do a save as there, and I'll change this to, let's just call it STR position. Sorry, I wrote functions and the title tag, so I'll quickly change this to string position. Now we are quickly going to see what string position does for us. Now it tells you the position of a particular character in a string or a particular word in a string. Okay, it tells you the position of that word in a string. Now let's get a string. Let's define a string. Let's say a string is equal to, let's say this is a string, and it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, and here we have our string. Now the string function has three arguments. Okay, now the first argument is the main string. Okay, the main string, that is the first argument. The second argument is the word you want to get the position. Okay, and then the third argument is the offset. Okay, where it should start looking at. Now the first two arguments are required, while the third one is optional. Let's quickly look at that. Now the function is written like this: str pos string pos, like that. And let's get our brackets and let's write the first one. Before we do that, let's quickly give another string. Let's say the one we're looking for, let's give it find, and is we're looking for the word is, for instance. Okay, now the first argument here will be the string. Okay, now the second argument will be the word you're looking for. In our case, it's find. Okay, now let's echo that and see what we'll get. Now when you echo that, let's go to a browser. This is STR Position.php. Now let's echo that and see. Let's refresh this. Look for STR Position. So you see your value is 2. Okay, the string position is 2. Now that is 2 because if you start counting, you get from the beginning you have 0 1 0 1 2. Okay, that is where the I start of the A started from. Okay, now that is 2. I don't know if you get that, but if you don't, just follow along, you'll still understand what I'm trying to say. Now what if you want to get, because there are many A's here, this is 1, this is 2, and there's another one here and another one here. So now what if you want to get all the strings? Okay, if you want it to tell you the position of each and every is in this particular string here, or in this particular variable. Now there's a way to do it. Okay, now we have to let me remove this line. Now what we're going to do is to get a loop that will tell us, or that will loop around the string and then get out all the is's in this string. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but that is the only way, and that's what I think is the best way to do it. You do a loop, or you write a loop that will check the string. Okay, now it will get all the values of is in the string. Now before we do that, let's assign a third variable, and let's call this length. Let's just call it length like this. And now the length will be the string length of the variable find. Okay, I'll tell you where we're going to use that, but for now let's leave it like that. Now in our next video, we're going to see how we'll loop around the string, and then we'll get all the value of is in that string and tell us, or get PHP to tell us the position. To loop that, we're going to use the while loop, and we're going to write it like this. Now we'll say while. Let's assign a new variable in here, and let's say while string position, or let's say string pos. Okay, while string pos is equal to str pos for string pos, and then we supply the arguments in it. Now the first one is going to be string. The second one is going to be find. Okay, and the third one is going to be the offset, which is where we want it to start looking at. Okay, and then our curly braces goes in there, and now we want to echo, we're going to echo a string pos. Okay, we're going to echo string pos right here, and let's quickly append it with a break tag so that it will okay. Let's do a break tag there and a delimiter. Now what it will do here is it will get the value of the position of what we're looking for, which in this case is the is here. Now it will display the value of the first is, put a break tag, display the value of the second is, put a break tag, and like that till it loops to the end. Now what happens is, if you look at this code very well, you discover that when it does this, you know, string find offset, let's put a $sign there. Now offset. Now when you echo string pos, you discover that the position, it will loop the string. Okay, get the first one here from the offset and start all over again, because the offset, we've not defined the offset. Let's do that quickly. Now the offset is 0. Now since the offset is 0, it will then do what? Start afresh, loop again, get to this point. Okay, display and then start again, since the offset is what, 0. Now we need to get a way to avoid this. If not, it will keep looping till maybe your browser crashes, or you know, the looping will be endless. Okay, so we need to devise a means to stop this kind of looping. Now what we want is to display all the is in this particular string, not to display endlessly. So we need to do this. Now what we need to do is to define a new offset variable. Okay, now the new offset variable will be string pause, there will be string pause +2. Now the +2 is because the is just 2 characters. So what happens is when it gets to the position here, okay, it adds 2 characters, which is 1, 2, and then start a new loop from here. Get this, add 2 characters, which is 1, 2, then continues from here until it gets the whole thing in our string. Okay, but now since we've already defined a string length for the variable is, which is fine. Now our string length in this case has its own variable called length, and we want our script to be dynamic. We'll rather use the variable length. Okay, now the variable length is better to use because once you change this, the string length function works with whatever is being assigned in the find function. I don't know if you get that. So if you happen to change this to something else, it will automatically affect the line 9 here, and it's going to affect this as well. But if you just say 2 and you happen to change this, that means you also have to change this for the program to work correctly. Now let's quickly test our code and see if we don't have any errors. Okay, now I'm going to refresh that, and you see 2, 5, 24 and 35. That means we are correct. This was found at position 2, this 5, like that, here and here. Okay, now take a very good look at the code, study it very well. That is how string positions work, and I think it's very important because I love using it so much in my projects. Study it very well.